Representative Deborah Silcox, thank you so much for being here with us. We truly appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be here. I appreciate you asking.
I want to ask you about just your thoughts, a vibe check, if you will, on how things are going this week of crossover day.
You know, things are going well. We have 160 bills, actually, that are still outstanding in the Rules Committee this morning. And I did present a bill, actually, for a subdivision in Sandy Springs to basically be able to amend their covenants and restrictions for their homeowners association, which I'm hoping is going to make it. But the good news is this is the first year of a 2-year cycle. So whatever bills don't make it tomorrow will still be viable next year.
Yeah. I mean, that's the exciting part of Georgia politics. And you're no stranger to it. I want to ask you your top priorities. I know that you have been extremely passionate and vocal about women's issues, a lot of women's health going on. So what's on your forefront this session for that?
You know, the biggest thing for me is women's health. I'm a cancer survivor and I'm married to a physician, and I'm the mother of a new physician that just graduated from the Medical College of Georgia this past spring. So I have a huge interest in healthcare, and I'm also a cancer survivor. So that is near and dear to my heart, and I want to try to help as many Georgians with those issues as I can. And with that in mind, I was really, really proud to be one of the lead co-sponsors this year of the IVF bill, which I think was just a fantastic hearing. We got great bipartisan support on that bill. It was unanimous. Everybody was clapping. Anytime there's a bill that's voted on unanimously, people stand up and clap. And it's one of the favorite things about being in the House, when you can have all that come together. We had that come together last year on the anti-Semitism bill, and the same kind of thing. I was a lead co-sponsor of that, and that was a big deal. And it feels good. Those
moments in that era where we are right now, from Washington to the state levels, it seems as if the parties are getting increasingly divided, yet you find silver lining in bills like this IVF bill.
Yeah. And I think it's critical that we put this in legislation and we put it in our law. What happened last year in Alabama, the state of Alabama, I would never want to happen here. I practiced law for years, and a lot of my colleagues that were women delayed having children on purpose because they wanted to become partners, and then they weren't able to get pregnant, and IVF was the way they had children. And I'm very proud to say that Dr. Dorothy Mitchell and Dr. Andy Toledo were helpful in helping draft this, and they have been pioneers in this area in Georgia of medicine, and I'm just proud to know them and have them as constituents.
I want to ask you something that's related to women's reproductive health. Mm-hmm. Clearly this bill has been passed, it's already a law, the heartbeat bill in Georgia. Mm-hmm. There has been, expression on both sides of the aisle on if people like it or not like it. I want to ask you about the concern in the medical community from some doctors who say that the law could restrict what they feel that they can do, this gray area that they may get in trouble if they do a certain procedure or not. Have you guys discussed that at all? Just kind of like the future of the bill now, and is there anything that could be done about that gray area?
You know, I have been approached by a number of OBs about that very issue, and I know that it is difficult for them to get guidance on this. They have been to the Attorney General, no guidance was provided. And I do think that we need to make changes in the law. I don't think Governor Kemp's prepared to make those changes at this time.
Is there a path for it potentially in the future?
I certainly hope so. I really do.
And you would support that?
Yes.
What other bills are you excited about as we look forward past crossover day to Sine Die?
You know, I'm really excited about the budget. I really am. I'm really excited that we're going to address corrections in a huge way that we haven't in years and years. And I'm really excited that we're going to help so many people in South Georgia that are losing potentially generational businesses since the impact of Hurricane Helene. So those are the two biggest things, the biggest items in the budget that I think are exciting, that are going to really make a difference in our state.
What can Georgia residents look forward to, those who are in the farming community, some who are not in the farming community, who are still recovering today from that devastation that came through our state?
You know, the help is on the way. You know, we are not going to get the federal funds that we were hoping to get, but the state is going to be there, and we're going to do all that we can to help those businesses stay in business.
I wanted to ask you about HB 79, the bill that you sponsored with the tax credits for firearms, if you have instructional type of safety, or the safe storage that has crossed over.
Right.
Can you talk to me more about this bill? We know that gun legislation was really top of mind at the beginning of session. It wasn't long after that horrific shooting that we saw at Appalachian High School. Where are gun bills right now? Obviously yours that you sponsored has crossed over, but is there any confidence that this is going to change that landscape?
You know, we're hopeful that House Bill 79 is going to make a difference. It's a tough balancing act to balance the interest of everyone on both sides of the aisle to try to get consensus on this issue. And I will say that I think that House Bill 79 really does thread the needle in a great way, because it encourages positive, responsible behavior on behalf of those who do want to carry firearms. And I think it's important that we encourage good behavior. I think it's important that we not necessarily make it a mandate, because if you're going to criminalize it, then you may potentially take a parent out of the home where there's no supervision of children at all. And so again, I think this is a good way to thread the needle to encourage positive behavior and hopefully save some people some money, and hopefully save lives by having safe storage of these weapons.
We know that following the shooting, House Speaker John Burns put out a proposal with several initiatives that he was hoping could be discussed through both chambers of under the Gold Dome of the Georgia legislature here. Safe storage was among those proposals.
Correct.
Are there any other proposals that you could see yourself supporting? I know that most Republicans are against the idea of taking away guns or putting any restrictions on purchasing guns, but are there any proposals that you could see yourself getting behind?
Under the current ones that have been proposed this year, they're not. But I think our biggest effort is what we passed yesterday, House Bill 268, which is going to seriously improve the safety of our students in the schools. Because there's going to be coordination amongst the schools and amongst all these government agencies that there hasn't been previously. And particularly, I think, for students like the student at Appalachian High School who are transferring to a new school, and there's nothing known about this child. The great thing is they've gone to great lengths to make sure that there's privacy protected in terms of HIPAA information about children that is protected, but at the same time, those children are identified. And I think Chairman Irwin, who's the education chairman and former superintendent, put it best, because he said our goal is that we have almost no children in this database. You know, this isn't to target children. This is to only identify those that might have a potential for, God forbid, taking their life or harming others.
To put a little bit more oversight so that the districts know what's going on.
Exactly. So that a child that goes to a new school is not unknown to the faculty and what's going on. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think it's a great step in the right direction, and I'm very excited that the technology, that some of the new technology that's put in, for example, even at Appalachia, they have these new panic buttons technology that they used, and that's why law enforcement was there within 5 minutes, which is fantastic.
Do you think that it's enough to stop any potential violence that could happen?
You know, stopping violence is a really hard thing, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it's generational, as you may or may not know, depending on socioeconomic situations. I studied poverty at the University of Georgia as part of my studies there, and it can be generational, unfortunately, and it's a terrible thing, but it's hard to stop that cycle. And I think that we're doing all we can to give people privacy, and at the same time address those concerns where we can. It's a tough thing.
Thank you for answering that. I want to talk to you about the month that we're in right now, which is Women's History Month.
Yes.
You are among a minority here under the Gold Dome when it comes to legislators, because it's majority men that are making the rules and have historically done that. You're part of a new era. There is a growing trend of women getting into politics. What changes have you seen since day one here until now when it comes to just the influence of women?
I've seen amazing changes because when I was at the University of Georgia, I actually did a internship in Washington, D.C. with Senator Sam Nunn when he was representing Georgia there. And then I did a legislative session here my senior year and worked with the insurance chairman, Joe T. Wood from Gainesville, Georgia. And I was sexually harassed when I was here as an intern. And I was delighted to come, and when I got elected, the pro tem Jan Jones actually passed. We have the strictest sexual harassment policy for legislators and lobbyists of any state in the country now. And we actually just had to renew our sexual harassment training that they make us, it's required that you do online. And I'm very proud of that. And I haven't had any issues since I was elected, but it's changed dramatically. It really has. And I was not interested in any of the propositions I got, but it's changed dramatically for the good. And there are lots and lots more women, and I love being in the House because there are more women in the House. It's more diverse in the House. It's more interesting to me. And of course, we have a healthy rivalry between the Senate and the House, but I think the House is the superior body. I really do. I love the House, and really appreciate Speaker Burns' leadership, and the pro tem has been an amazing mentor for me. I grew up in Sandy Springs, and our first legislator actually representing Sandy Springs, because before she was elected, it was an at-large position, so just not specific to my area. But my mom's best friend was Dorothy Felton, and she's since passed away, but if you're at 285 and Roswell Road, that interchange is the Dorothy Felton interchange. And she was an inspiration to me. I rode in the Sandy Springs parade with her when I was in elementary school, and actually was a page for her down here as well. And so I'm very honored and just privileged to represent my hometown down here.
I feel like you're in my head because I was just about to ask you what trailblazers and those who came before you really set the path
and
for
she
you.
really did. Yeah, she really did. And then Joe Wilkinson actually succeeded her, and he carried the bill to make Sandy Springs a city. And I'm so proud because, again, when I was growing up in Sandy Springs, it was out in the sticks. People were like, "You're moving where? Where are your parents moving?"
So much.
And it's really become a great city in Georgia, one of the largest cities in Georgia. Yeah. And if you haven't been to a show at the Sandy Springs Performing Arts Center at City Springs, you should go because it is fantastic. And we have great entertainers. We have great plays and musicals there. It's really a great facility.
I want to ask you about the landscape and on almost like a practical level here at the state capitol, and how a woman's influence has changed that when it comes to childcare, or it comes to things as simple as just having, feminine products and things like that. Has that ever been an issue for you here, and have you seen any changes?
I have seen changes, but I think it's taken electing women to have that point of view on legislation. And for example, when I first got here, one of the very first things I worked on was the Genetic Counselors Act in 2019, which it basically would allow genetic counselors to be licensed for the first time so that women can get reliable genetic information, particularly with the BRCA gene and breast cancer, on their health history. So that was one of the first things. I did work on maternal leave that we passed a couple of years ago, increasing maternal leave for all government workers, teachers, up to 6 weeks. Would love to see that go to 12 weeks because I think that's the standard in private industry. We're always a little bit behind private industry in terms of salaries and benefits, but I'm hoping we can get that. I think that's important. Also worked on a bill that required employers to have a private space for women to breastfeed everywhere. And it was so interesting because I was at a University of Georgia football game last fall, and this woman was looking for a place to breastfeed, and the pods that they have the pod, in the basement here for women to breastfeed, they have those at the stadium. And I was like, here, let me help you. This is a space just for you. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. And she didn't know who I was, but I was just so glad, that I had worked on that legislation, and it was making a difference for people that want to do that, right? So it's been interesting. I also have worked a lot on sex trafficking, which again is not isolated to women alone, but certainly disproportionately has affected women. And was actually the author of my second sex trafficking bill. Was named by Governor Kemp as one of his top pieces of legislation in 2020. So really proud of that. Worked on Margie's Law that requires if a woman has dense breast tissue, they have to give her notice of that so that she can be aware that the mammogram may not be sufficient in terms of her personal health. She may need to get an additional screening by ultrasound. And so, there's been tons of issues. In 2018, I did a bill to standardize the levels of maternal and neonatal care, that hospitals have to inform women that what services they provide at that particular hospital. That wasn't clear before, and some people were going to facilities that didn't have all the specialized equipment that a larger Piedmont or Northside would have, and so better informing women who are pregnant. So there have been tons of issues. There really have. The stomp issue with the tampon tax, that has been an issue, and I was really excited to see us put those feminine products in public schools so that young ladies have access to that. So it's been a ton of issues.
And would you think that the issues, all of the things that you just listed right now, do you think that would have gotten done by one of your male counterparts?
I don't think it's intentional on their part. I just don't think they think about it. I think they just have different concerns. And so to that degree, I think it's important to have women in the legislature and have that point of view, because we just have a different view. And not better, not worse, just different point of view. I will say that I think that probably one of the neatest things about being a woman here is because we're still a minority, but people are giving women more respect, and I love having young people come to the Capitol. We started up the page system again, and to have so many young ladies coming to me that are younger saying, "Gosh, you're a state representative. I want to do that," right? And that just gets me psyched. It really does. I was really nervous because I have a son and a daughter, and wasn't supposed to necessarily be able to have children because of my cancer history. Miraculously have 2 wonderful children, and I was really I didn't know how they would feel about their mom running for office. And they're like, "Go, Mom!" They're so proud of me, and they are just 100% supportive, as well as my husband. So it's been great. It's great. It's cool to be a woman down here.
What work do you think still needs to be done to further the opportunities for women? Obviously, women have made their own opportunities and will continue to make their own opportunities here at the Capitol, but what work needs to be done?
I don't think we're necessarily ever done with that work. I think the more women that run for office, the more women that are elected to office, I think it's the better. It's sheer numbers, right? I think because of the increase of women down here, so many of these issues we've discussed have come to the forefront. And it's interesting, in my son's class, for example, for medical school, there were 130 women and 100 men in his class. And the admissions people said we admitted more women because women were earning 5 degrees for every 4 that men are earning. And that's why they chose the class that way. And so I think you're going to continue to see women come more to these jobs and fill these roles, and perhaps even get a majority at some point because women are earning the degrees and they're doing the work to be down here and be a professional and be leaders. So It's fun. It's great to be. It's a great time to be a woman for sure.